Yes, we are still talking about Nigel Farage and, of course, the Coutts banking scandal. Or at least that's what Nigel Farage and, the right wing would like you to believe, that it was this massive scandal of how Nigel Farage, this brave and fearless person, was denied having a bank account because he was kicked out for political reasons, or his political views, sorry. And because of that, he was denied a bank account at one of the most privileged, wealthiest private banks in the UK that have a concierge service that could basically get you tickets to any sold out conference venue, that nothing was impossible for this concierge service, I hope I've said that right, that they have. I find that really interesting that, Farage was quite upset at losing this very privileged position that he had suddenly lost. And when NatWest went, well, you can have another bank account, that, of course, was just not good enough. And at that point, Farage threw his toys out of the pram. And of course, as you'll remember, all summer long, we were talking about Nigel Farage and his banking scandal. We're covering the front pages. Of course, the only good thing to actually come out of this was that now there were at least certain rule changes possibly coming through soon to say that instead of, a 30 days notice, you've now got 90 days notice of your potential bank account's closure. It was the only actual good thing to come out of it. After all, we covered the debt charity that was actually talking about this. Forget Farage, there are actual serious issues that, 30 days is not enough for some people to be able to, you know, do everything else in their life and possibly sort out a bank account just about to be closed. you know, there are other things, but of course, you've got to remember Nigel Farage is incredibly wealthy. Well, we suspect incredibly wealthy, incredibly privileged, and that's why he was banking at Coutts. But of course, as we have learned throughout all this process, there has still been no evidence, no evidence to back up any of Nigel Farage's claims that he was booted from Coutts because of his political views. And guess what? As far as I'm concerned, unless something, else happens or Farage speaks on this, which would be kind of funny, this is the last time we're gonna speak about this, because not only have we had NatWest's internal review, we have now had the final report of the external review that was also looking into this by a solicitor's firm. And guess what they happen to find? No evidence. No evidence whatsoever. Oh, so anyway, let's get on into reading, or at least what was said in this report, because it's illuminating, to say the least. But before we do get into this as well, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and our off-station link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So let's crack on into this. This comes from The Guardian reporting on this with the title of, and again, love this title: No Evidence. Coutts closed accounts due to political views, report says. An independent review has found no evidence. Again, let's emphasize this: found no evidence that NatWest's private bank Coutts had closed customer accounts due to their political views. But it found that it had breached rules by failing to give due notice or explaining why they were being shut. Again, oh no. But this report also goes to show why Farage was wrong, why this was just a big molehill. By what we saw essentially in the summer was essentially just Nigel Farage throwing his toys out of the pram and having a massive temper tantrum literally on the front page of every single newspaper and across GB News for nights on end. So, a report compiled by external lawyers hired by NatWest after the dispute with the former UKIP leader Nigel Farage said that their team had found, quote, found no evidence of discrimination in any of the exit cases, including no evidence of a customer's account being escalated for exit or ultimately being exited due to their political views or party political affiliations or any other protected characteristic. So, no evidence. Turns out Farage was lying all the time about this. The firm, Travers Smith, has also urged the lender to create more formal rules of procedures where accounts are closed for reasons other than financial crime. This includes commercial decisions where maintaining an account is actually a loss maker for the lender. A loss maker for the lender? I wonder who that could have been. This report is the last expected from the Travers Smith review. The review was launched back in July after Farage had campaigned against Coutts, which caters to the very wealthy, for threatening to close his accounts without explanation. The scandal then snowballed after Farage obtained internal documents showing that Coutts was concerned about his alleged xenophobic, chauvinistic, and racist views. The report released on Friday said that lawyers did identify 2 cases where NatWest had closed the accounts of customers who it believed were unaligned with its, quote, purpose. This includes promoting diversity and addressing the climate crisis. However, Travers Smith said that there were also other factors at play in those cases. So, when Farage went on his massive hunt for anyone else who this had happened to, turns out the only 2 that he could find, there were other cases, other extenuating circumstance factors involved in this, or in play, that meant other stuff was going on. Every more turn this twist just goes to show how what we said right at the very beginning, that Farage is just upset that he is losing this immense privilege that he used to have access to. And now, of course, he's having his toys taken away with him. And now he's throwing a massive temper tantrum when he has to have an average bank account like everyone else. However, Travers Smith said that, of course, other factors in play. Of course, these included that they were A, too costly to manage, or posed a reputational risk for the bank, and both were ultimately escalated to the bank's reputational risk committee. At the earlier phase of the Travers Smith review, released back in November, it had already determined that Coutts had a contractual right to shut Farage's accounts, and it said in November that it had ultimately done so because the bank was losing money by keeping him as a client. Yeah, I love it because I go back to that first video, and there are people in that video down in the comments defending Farage, saying that no, this is why this happened. This is why this happened. This is why Farage, he was just being, he was being politically persecuted for his political views and political opinions. How dare they do this to poor Nigel Farage? Well, here we are a couple of months later, and not only A, is there no evidence, but the external review from Travers Smith had said that they had a contractual right to shut old Nigel's account because they were losing money off him by keeping him as a client. So Farage, of course, lambasted the final report, claiming that it did not reflect the views of the bank that were detailed in the documents he had obtained earlier this year, saying the report does, however, admit that there are serious differences in the way that NatWest closed bank accounts, which is a subjective fashion. The NatWest Group now need to take a cold, hard look at their own procedures, he said. Coutts' new executive chief, Mohammed Sayed, said who was installed after Peter Flaev was sacked back in July, said that the bank had recognized the need to improve our customer account closure procedures, and these improvements are already well underway. It's clear that there are lessons to be learned, and the experience of some of our customers fell well short of what they should expect, and we apologize to them. Why are you apologizing to Nigel Farage? Honestly, your external review has already said it right here in this sentence. Let's read this again. The review released early in November determined that Coutts had a contractual right to shut Farage's accounts and said in the November that it had ultimately done so because of the bank was losing money by keeping him as a client. So all that hubbub, all that furore that we saw back in the summer of this year. Yeah, Farage turned out, as we were saying at the time, to be a colossal man baby, that he was complaining about the immense loss of privilege that he was suffering. And as a result, well, I don't know whether they will keep him on as a client. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe in a couple of months' time we saw them go, "Hey Nigel, we're following all these new rules we put in place. Can't have an account with us anymore." It would not shock me if in a couple of months maybe we saw them get rid of Nigel again. Would not be too surprised to see that. And of course, Farage will, of course, kick up a fuss, kick up a storm. But here's the thing: as we already learned in the first place, they were already doing that. They were already doing that. They had a contractual right because they were losing money by keeping him in as a client. Once again, Farage is proved to be an absolute liar. He was not portraying what was really going on in the situation, as we had said at the time. And of course, he made essentially what was the right of the bank, a contractually okay obligation for them to say, yeah, we're losing money from you. You're not going to keep you on as a client. And of course, Farage goes, how dare you? How dare you persecute me for my political viewpoints? Anyway, we can only hope that that does happen again in the future. And if that does happen to occur, I will bring it up. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole banking scandal with Farage, case closed. Where again, I really need to get some props. I really do. I need a crystal ball. I need a gavel. But yeah, case closed. At this point, yeah, Farage was in the wrong, and of course, the bank was in the right all the time. Shock, horror. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, you can click on the, like I say, buy me a coffee link. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's all the other good stuff, again, down below as well. There's the Pony Club as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.